Greetings class, I'm Louis Walker and I'm going to be presenting to you my infinity speech. My infinity speech is about sex offender. That's the topic, sex offender. Research question. Should PA pass restriction on where sex offender can reside? Should PA pass restriction? First of all, let me give you a broad opening. Sexual violence. Sexual violence is something that we see now these days in our homes, in our communities, in the schools. There's a lot of sex offenders all around the state of Pennsylvania. The public designed to monitor and restrict sex offender in the public in the United States since 1994. The Jacob Rowley Act requires convicted sex offender registration address with law enforcement, better tracking and monitoring of this crime. The Making Law Interact in 1996 modifying the Jacob Rowley Act by allowing registry information to disclose to the public where sex offender resides. The background of sex offense being tracked. Sex offense are being tracked over 50 years ago, when in 1947 California interacted the first sex offender registration law. Now all states have offender registration law that help law enforcement keep track of sex offender movements. That the background of sex offenders being tracked down. It was 50 years ago. Now I go by saying we have issues in Pennsylvania when it comes to tracking sex offenders. My one main point here is sex offender registration issues. The Making Law state that sex offenders should be tracked down and then listed on their offense. Registration penalties now in Westchester County have been one of the problems. One of the very worst side effects related to conviction of sex offender in the state of Pennsylvania, being required to register as sex offender in many instances, the remainder of your life. All states currently have short of sex offender registry. Many of the new Making Law has been updated as well, challenged over the past years. Chester County is facing one of the problems when it comes to tracking down sex offenders. Currently, sex offender registration law requires this convicted of sex offense to register with the state of Pennsylvania, reporting to the state authorities on a regular basis after serving the time in prison. The accuracy when it comes to information contained within the registry. The state of Pennsylvania does not provide the correct information on certain sexual violence when it comes to children, when it comes to women, when it comes to men. All over the state of Pennsylvania, the police or the Pennsylvania state law is not giving our the right information that we need when it comes to tracking these sex offenders down. I will go on by saying the Pennsylvania state reporting requirement should last at least for 15 years when it comes to tracking the offense. When it comes to tracking them down, it should stay in a database for 15 years. If you require sex offenders in Pennsylvania state offender, your member of your family, potential employee, neighbors, number of the public can access your detailed personal information. This information should include where you live, where you drive, your physical description, the duty of your criminal conviction. You will even be limited to where you work and where you live in the state of Pennsylvania. There should be the restriction when it comes to information retained in the registry. Is Pennsylvania giving us that information when it comes to that? They are not. So, my second issue here is this. Should sex offender be living close to children? Again, I go back by what I'm saying. In May, James E. Elector lost his job as a director of Carifuna Parole and Community Service Division because of what? He was hiding sex offenders. That was his crime. It's not that he lost track of many of them, but he committed new crime under what? The supervision. It makes it worse, placing 23 high-risk sex offenders, most likely pre-repeat crimes, in hotels, motels, within miles of Destiny Land. That was one of his problems. So because of that, he faced the law. So sex offenders shouldn't be what? Living close by children. Community around the country don't want sex offenders living anywhere near the children. That's why in Pennsylvania, sex offenders shouldn't be what? Living close to children. The most have action grammar of Destiny, 17 dozen, if not hundreds, of lower government have denied sex registration from living near public places where children can work, accepted to gather, such as schools, playgrounds, and nearby homes. Another question: should sex offenders receive higher punishment? What do you think? For me, I would say, as long as they restricted for where they should live, being punished, giving high punishment shouldn't be the issue. It should be what? Restricted on where these sex offenders should live. Throughout tracking down through what? GPS technology, we all need the pictures posted of these sex offenders, which the state of Pennsylvania does, but they don't give a detail. We need to keep track and save our children. Anti-sex offender law rapidly encounter most political residents, both houses of the Washington State legislature, for what? Sex offenders and where they should reside. So sex offenders should notify the neighbors. Yes, you move in the community, you should be able to notify your neighbor. If you don't go to your neighbor, you go to the police and notify them about your crime. So the neighbor should know that you've been convicted of such crime. Secondly, can sex offender be rehabilitated? Yes, I would say yes, they should. After they serve their time in prison, they should be into rehabilitation center to talk about the crimes they committed, and to not be able to commit that crime again. They should be in a rehabilitation center, teaching them the right way of life, and then making them to know what they did was wrong. They should be placed in a rehabilitation center. Residential restriction. There should be a restriction. Pennsylvania state that as of May 25th, 2011, there should be a restriction in the Supreme Court stated, Article 28 3D 1193, that sex offenders should have a restriction where they reside. Is that impacting? Is that being taken in place? No. My third main point is implementation of what practice and policy. Are we going by the practice and policy in Pennsylvania? Yes or no? The benefit of reside communication safety have yet to establish resident restriction and their consequences of accepting or challenging keeping skills of sex offender where they face the integrity result of the laws is not being impacted. Where to put sex offenders? That's one of the questions. Sex offender placing the illegal banishment, or many cases community protesting in becoming tough to know where to put sex offenders when they come out of prison. That's one of the issue. In a county east of San Francisco, based sex offender keep cost of parole due to the lack of where sex offender should reside. So put it in otherwise, when it comes to Pennsylvania, where should sex offender be reside? Where should we put them? Should we put restriction on them? My point was say yes, you should put restriction on them where they should live and keep track of them. Okay. Review of main points. In some, like I said, the only state that have this restriction is the state of Minnesota Department of Correction, the polling point since 2007. My final thought: perhaps the greatest economy of homeless and intended, therefore monitoring sex offenders should be one of the main point when it comes to tracking down sex offenders. I think I have assumed my presentation point. I run up to 10 minutes. I hope I don't be large for this, but this is why Pennsylvania should look into when it comes to restricting on where sex offenders should live. Thank you.